Hi everyone, this is Justin with Crossfuze, and I wanted to spend a little bit of time today talking about the ServiceNow planning console and the project workbench. Basically, how easy is it to manage your project tasks within ServiceNow? So I'm going to talk a little bit about that, and I'm going to cut over to a live demo and you can see it all working in action. Now let's talk about managing project tasks. A lot of times we're asked about, people coming new to ServiceNow who haven't worked with it before. Their concern is around Microsoft Project. People know Microsoft Project. It's common, it's used, everybody knows it. If their contractors know it, that's a skill they have. The vendors they collaborate with might use it. And the nice thing about ServiceNow is they've made it really easy to import and export both to and from Microsoft Project. So I can easily get a file and pull in all the project tasks and all the attributes that are associated with it into my ServiceNow project. And then if I need to export it, I can export it out to a project file. Someone can go make changes. In ServiceNow, when they do the export, they put a unique identifier on all the project tasks. So when the changes come back and someone re-imports that to a project, it's going to reconcile the changes that were made over in the Microsoft Project application. Now that's kind of an edge case. You don't want to be doing that all the time, having somebody work in two systems, but for when it's needed, it's there and it works really, really well. The second thing is, people come into ServiceNow and they see the forms and the related lists and they want to work with the system as it's designed, and they don't know about the planning console. So I'm going to show you around the planning console today to show that there's a work breakdown structure, there's a Gantt chart view, and it's all interactive. You can work with your project, you can move tasks around, you can extend and shorten and make milestones and do all the same stuff that you're used to doing in Microsoft Project right in your web browser and in real time. Using something called the client-side planning console, I can do all that stuff, save it and batch it up to the server, or I can use a server-side planning console where all my changes go uniquely to the server and get saved. The last thing I'm going to show you is the project workbench, and this is a quick way for you to view a project phase and actually triage the tasks within that project phase using a visual task board. So you can do things like make assignments, label things, move them between different states quickly and easily without having to drill into each task. Same for project phases. Within the project workbench, we can add waterfall, agile, and testing phases to our project and then manage the tasks as part of those phases. So that's what I'm going to show you. Let's get on over to the demo. So what I have set up here is an empty project. I gave it a name, demo project, filled out the required fields, and I'm good to go. Notice that there's no task down here on the bottom, and what I'm going to show is importing those tasks from Microsoft Project to populate this. I could export as well to Microsoft Project and bring it back in. That's definitely supported, but I'm going to show once it's imported how easy it is to work with these tasks. So let's go ahead and click import, and I'm going to choose a file. I downloaded a template off the internet for a construction project just so I could show this. I'm going to go to update an existing project and we'll choose demo here, and I'll click import. And now if I scroll down, I'll actually see I've got some project tasks. Now it's showing 6, there's a lot more than 6 project tasks in here. What it's just not showing is the subtasks for these particular tasks. Now many people who are new to ServiceNow think that this is the interface for task management. Maybe I want to create a new one, maybe I want to edit something, maybe I want to click on one and work with it, and you could do that. So I could click on this task, I could open up the task form, I can see that it has the typical things in ServiceNow like a description and comments, but I've got my task type stuff here as well, and then down below I've got some details, whether it's a milestone or not, dates, notes, checklist, stuff like that, and then I see, oh wow, look, there's 7 subtasks underneath this particular task. Now, like I said, you could work with them this way. That is not the way we'd actually recommend, working with your tasks, and it's a little clunky. And what I really would recommend you do is work with the planning console. So I'm going to show the planning console and the project workbench just to show how easy it is to work with tasks in ServiceNow. If you're used to Microsoft Project, you're used to kind of having a work breakdown structure on the left-hand side and a Gantt chart on the right-hand side, and that's where we find ourselves here. So I'm going to expand out this. On the left-hand side, I can see I've got all these different fields, and this is my work breakdown structure. I can see that one we were looking at earlier, I've got some subtasks underneath this task. I can use this to explode them all out. Maybe I want to go to level 3 and just see everything laid out like that, and now everything's going to show. I can turn off some of these columns or turn on, so if I wanted to not see assigned to and these particular things, I can turn those off and it'll start closing those fields so I don't have to look at them. Now, if I wanted to edit any one of these fields, all I have to do is double click on here and I can edit a particular field and save my changes. Now, this particular environment is set up with the client-side planning console. It is an option in ServiceNow to use client-side or server-side. We recommend client-side. You're going to have a better experience and better performance using the client-side console. It's real quick, easy to edit a task from here, so I can right click and edit a particular task, and now you're going to see that same form view that I showed you earlier when we were looking at the related lists, but now I'm in the planning console, so I don't have to leave my work breakdown structure or my Gantt chart to actually interact and work with the task. So I have all the same options I just showed you, I can do right here from the planning console. If I want to add a task, it's simple as clicking add task above or add task below. So click it, and we'll just call this demo task. Enter, and now I have a new task. I can edit that and work with them just like I want to. I can add a dependency, and this uses the same syntax that you're used to using in Microsoft Project for adding dependencies. And if you're like me, I actually want to add my dependency by coming over here to the Gantt chart, so let's widen this up so you can see it. Hover over this, and I can click and drag this over here and make these two tasks now dependent on each other. So I'll do that. Notice it updated the dependency there, and I can still edit that. I can remove it, or I can add a new one because I can have more than one dependency. And speaking of dependencies, I can right-click this task and add an external dependency. So if I have another project and a project task that is dependent on this particular task, I can create that dependency right now using this dialog. And I can also specify whether it's a hard or a soft dependency. A couple other things you can do here on the left-hand side is I can move tasks up and down. So my demo task, I can move it up and change where that is, or I can move it back down. I can unindent that so it comes out now and it's on the same level as these other tasks, or I can indent that and put it back underneath the contracts phase, so it's there. The other icon you're seeing here is this critical path icon, so if I click here it's going to show in red what the critical path is for this particular project. And this side is interactive as well, so if I wanted to move the date on this particular task, so let me go ahead and show the planned start date here. For this one is June 1st. If I wanted to move that to a different date, note I can drag it over here into August, and when I do that, it's going to automatically change the planned start date for me. I can do that as well on these types of tasks down here. So if I click here and hover to get this, I can make that longer or shorter, and all without having to fiddle with the fields over here and change my dates. I can do it right here by clicking there. There's a couple other options here on the right hand side. I can set baselines for my project, I can copy and move, I can configure this Gantt view to be how I want it and maybe show or hide the external dependencies. The last thing I want to show you is the project workbench. So if I click here on project workbench, I'm going to see another view of the project, but it's going to be at a phase level. So I see right here I've got these different phases. These were the high-level tasks you saw on the previous screen. So I've got contracts, document review and revision, grading and building, foundation, all this construction stuff. When I click on a particular phase, the visual task board below is going to update to show the tasks that are part of that particular phase. And the nice thing about using a visual task board is if you picture yourself as a PM, you may want to be moving things between states really quickly without having to open up a form. So I can take this particular one, move it to work in progress, and now the state's updated for this particular task. If I wanted to assign it to Justin, I could click his name and add it under primary or additional, and that'll go ahead and assign it to Justin. If I wanted to actually give it a label, so I turn on the labels here, and that turned on my labels here, and I can say, hey, this is going to be a low priority task, and I'm going to tag this with low priority. So all the same things you're used to using in a visual task board you can do there. And then if you wanted to see this as a list, you could click here and change this to a list view. So now I've got the same tasks in the foundation but in a list view, and I can open them up or preview them just like I would in any other part of ServiceNow. The last thing to show you here is actually adding a phase. So I can add a phase to my project, I can add another milestone. I can say whether the phase is waterfall, agile, or a testing phase, and track my phases that way. So that gets into the hybrid project management that we all know is available in ServiceNow to manage our projects. Now you've seen how easy it is in ServiceNow project management to work with your project tasks. And for those of you that are used to Microsoft Project, you can import, export, and work in an interface like the planning console that's familiar to people who've been using Microsoft Project. If you'd like to learn more about ServiceNow project management, let us know at letstalk@crossfuze.com. Thanks for your time.